Hi, William. How are you doing, William? Welcome to the chat. Hi, Nickery. How are you doing? Good to see you here. How are you both doing? Just doing a little bit of setup. Nearly there. Dragging all the images over really quickly. Get threads up as well. It's looking to go. Overpaint screen. Yes, there we go. Let's have this beauty on the screen, shall we? Ooh, look at this. Nice. EJ, hello. How's it going? How are you doing? Good to see you all here. Will's doing great. That's awesome to hear. I'm doing good. Thank you so much. Getting prepped for another WIP Wednesday. It's weather was really nice today, and I spent most of it just modeling some medieval tools. So no regrets though. Yeah, it's been a good day. I'm making a lot of good progress on my little scene. The studio stuff is also going great. So we have like 10 people working on our first little scene together, which is going awesome too. It's going really good all around. Yeah, before we get started today, I want to give like a little quick update because the format changed a little bit. So if you're a member of the community, previously to this update, you've always had to put your stuff into like feedback request, right? But now what I'm gonna do instead is we're gonna have two tags. So one for open for feedback, where you can just leave it open to anyone to give feedback. And then I'm also gonna add a new tag. I'll really quickly show it as well. So this is the tag we had before. It's now renamed to open for feedback. And then we have another one which is called work in progress. WIP Wednesday review. That's what we're currently doing now. So you have the choice to keep it open to feedback, and then also basically request a specific feedback from me as well. So there's two tags for it now. Just wanted to give that little bit of an update for everyone for future reviews. Yeah, hopefully that's a little bit more useful, because the thing that I had to do before was we had this tag, right? Like feedback requested. But whenever I did like a work in progress Wednesday, I would remove the tag. So that meant that there wasn't really like a green flag signaling like, hey, I'm still open for feedback. And I don't want it to be specifically about me, right? Like I don't want it to be specifically about the feedback that I give. So that's why we also have like an open for feedback tag now, so that anyone... You can basically keep that on forever if you're open for feedback at a certain stage. Yeah, hopefully that's gonna make the whole thing a little bit more streamlined as well. Hi Aaron, how are you doing? Got your amazing stuff on the screen already. Yeah, but that little introduction out of the way. Oh, actually, last thing. Feel free to share any ideas or any bits of feedback in the chat as well as they come up, right? Again, I don't want this to be all about me and my feedback that I give, so feel free to pitch in. You know, feel free to pitch in and share your own little thoughts as you see work come by on the stream as well. Anything to help each other grow, right? That's why we're here. Yeah, okay. Now, for real, introduction out of the way. Let's dive into some work. We're going to start out here with Aaron. Aaron is also in the chat. He's doing good, just grinding through uni work. Hell yeah, keep up that grind, man. You're doing awesome work. This is looking awesome. And then your other scene is looking great too, so keep it up. So let's see. I'm coming up to the last quarter of this project, and I'm looking for a little bit of advice on two main elements. I do like my lighting setup, But if anyone has a feedback on the lighting, I'm open to it. I specifically want to look into ways to increase the mood atmosphere of the scene. And then the second is storytelling and color. If anyone has ideas to add stories or props, add story and pops of colder color accents, I'd love to hear it. I'm open to anything. Yeah, I honestly, let's start with the second one, right? So like the bits of colder color, I don't think you necessarily need it, right? Because I feel like the background actually does a lot of the work for you, where like the foreground is basically like sort of warmer, even though green is kind of in the middle, right? So you have like gold and then warm in the foreground. So I actually don't mind like the color balance that we're getting now. Older accent colors and little bits of story that you wanna add. You could do some interesting stuff, but I would kind of want to focus on the focal point, right? Which seems to be like still this area over here. Like this little space. Like that's where I would put something storytelling wise. Like you could even, I don't know if there's anything there right now. You could honestly even just add like a little chair. Right? Just to indicate that someone in the morning is just like sunbathing there or something like that, you know? Like a chair or maybe like a stool or something like that with a little table. You know, like something like that. Because it kind of has a whole Viking vibe going on, right? It kind of feels more like a cozy residential Viking thing rather than like, I'm gonna crush your freaking skull all the time, you know? So if I would put like a storytelling element, you could put like a little cozy area over here, right? Or I mean, you could a couple of ideas, right? So sitting area because it hits the sun so nicely, right? Maybe something draped over the edge of it. So you could maybe do like a banner or something like that. Right? Just have like a tiny banner like draped down. Like a like a house sigil or whatever you want to call it. Right? You could drape that down from there. And then you could also like repeat that on here as well, right? So let's say this banner is also repeated here. Right? And then do the same thing here. Might be an interesting one. And then if you're looking for an excuse to add like a pop of contrasting color, right? This banner basically gives you free reign on whatever color you want to use on it, right? So you could use like a muted blue color or something like that and give that like nice contrast of color. Or maybe even go for something more towards the orange red spectrum, right? It gives you like a lot of freedom basically. And like you said, Aaron, like it gives you like a little bit of movement as well, which could be very cool. Let me actually try to do one thing over here. So I'm gonna see if I can bring up the chat as well. Wait, did I already have a chat in here somewhere? Cool. Let's just do that. Right? Okay. Maybe make it a little bit bigger as well. Yeah, so the chair is a cool shout. Cloth and stuff could also add movement. Gav is also saying could look maybe into stone color, like Welsh blue granite. Before the scene is pretty much there. Yeah. Yeah, like it almost has to be something like this, right? Like a little ornamental thing that you can just add onto stuff to give you an excuse to add color, almost. That could be cool. Like a little seating area, but the seating area, the only issue that I have with the seating area, it feels very cozy, right? That's what you would do in modern day. I don't think you would necessarily do that in Viking times, right? Oh, an animal hide. Yeah. That's a good shout as well. So, banner / animal hide. It's a great shout as well, and welcome to the chat, Kiraf. Thank you so much for the suggestion. Yeah. Would be nice. So that's basically like number 2 out of the way, right? Like the storytelling and a little bit of added color. Maybe right now, I'll tell you what I think about it right now, right? When it comes to the storytelling. It feels like a storage area. Right? Like just where they store like ale or beer or whatever. Well, mead might be as well. Maybe that's something that you could look at if you want to change that up and add a little bit more depth to the story, right? Instead of only having like kegs inside of it, maybe having something else in the interior. Because that's going to have the most impact on the storytelling, I think, right? Because I look inside and I just see like a whole bunch of kegs. If that is intended, then you're nailing it, right? But if you want to tell something else with the story, then that's probably the stuff that you want to change up then. But of course, that's going to take more time, right? So that's going to be like a significant time investment compared to like 2 banners, right? To really liven up the place. And you can also use these for storytelling as well, right? Like the sigil itself can be used for like storytelling as well. Yeah, very nice job though. Nice one. I love the layering of the background as well. You did a very good job with just having like the layering in the back. That was very cool. The foliage is looking really nice as well. Nice and green, nice and lush. Like what you did with the water's edge too. That came along like really well. Just like the variety of it. Looks really cool. Yeah, for sure. I was thinking of making a meat drying rack and hanging some fish. Could add the feeling that it's lived in. Yeah, I think fishing could actually be an interesting one, right? Because it's close to the water. It would make sense for this to be like a fishing hole or something like that. Maybe it connects up to... well, there's still like a bridge here, right? So there might be like a way that it connects like upstream or whatever. So you could make the argument that this is like perfect fishing spot. And then yeah, having... You can do so much cool stuff with just like ropes, right? With some fish on it. Then maybe even I don't know, you can use that as like a really dynamic element in your scene, right? Where it picks up here. And you have like a bunch of fish hanging up here as well. It creates like a whole new dynamic on this side of it. Or maybe they don't even connect to the same point, right? But maybe... Oh, painted on the background. RIP. Let's see. Yeah, you could do a lot of cool stuff with fishing lines, right? It could be awesome. Just having the fishing lines just hanging about and like fish to dry. Could be awesome. And then the barrels can still play into that whole storytelling thing that you're trying to set up, right? Because if this is like the local fisherman, he's catching a whole lot of fish. He's probably salting them up to preserve, right? And you would probably do that within barrels anyway. So he would like cram like a whole bunch of fish in barrels. Then he would stack up the barrels over here. Right? So he would have like a whole bunch of barrels and then take that little cart into town to sell dried fish. Right? So it ties like the whole thing together. Selling. So selling goods, and then the barrels could be used as, well, I can't remove that. And the barrels can be used as fish storage, right? And there could be like very cool things that you can do. Again, I'm gonna lay it out, and then you decide on what is still like manageable to do within your time, right? You could almost make this. Well, this is like a person height, so maybe. I was thinking maybe there's like a table where you could imagine that he's like chopping up the fish, right? There's like a giant cleaver. You see like, I don't know, some fish carcasses or something like that. I mean, fish carcasses is going to be tricky to make as you're trying to finish it up, but yeah, I think that the cleaver itself could do a lot with like a small table on it, right? So it becomes fish, storage, and prep. And then the interior could just be like fish storage. You could also mess with some subtle branding on the barrels. That's an awesome idea too. Right? And then have like, I don't know, let's say you add like a little logo here. That logo is also going to be represented here. Right? So that you massage and you bring everything together to build like a cohesive thing. Yeah, I love that. And then, oh dude, there's so much you can do. You could you could have like fishing nets, right? You could have like a couple of fishing nets hanging here. You could even have like little Viking like lobster pods that they use to trap like smaller crayfish and lobsters and all that kind of stuff. And you can make that out of the wood that you already have, right? So, well, at least the lobster pots and like the table and all that stuff. You can just kit bash that together with stuff that you already have. That could be cool. Right? And then all those things are starting to come together. Because you got this cart for selling the goods, you got this area for little prep, you got storage inside, you got like all the fishing equipment here. Maybe you see, I don't know, like a partially submerged like little lobster pot, you know? Just floating in the water. Maybe since this is a stream, right? Like maybe he has like a little setup here where he has like a net like just dangling in the water, like catching all the fish. Right, you can do like a whole bunch of cool stuff. I mean, I love spitballing these ideas, honestly. Love it so much. These are really cool. Yeah, it's just because the scene itself has such a nice setup already, right? You just need to what I'm trying to do, like I'll try to dispel what I'm thinking here live, right? What I'm trying to do is try and find like opportunities with like minimal time investment. Like the fishing net is a tileable, right? So that's going to be super easy. You got the rope already, so you basically make like the ropes for the edges. Then you just need to make like a tileable netting material, which can also use your rope again, because you can just implement the rope in Substance Designer and make like a netting material out of it. The crab pots could be made out of the wood that's already present. Fishing lines, you got those already. I think the only thing, if you want to really sell it, you'll need fish, right? You can keep it really simple though. Like with these fish hanging up here, dried fish, like they look kind of shriveled up and kind of brownish, and they're probably going to be way more forgiving than like actually making like a normal fish and having it up close. So you can get away with having like simple fish hanging here. Right? And then the barrels, you already got the barrels, just stamp like a little thingy on it. Yeah, this little clock piece is going to be like super simple as well. Yeah, you could even try to think. The only thing that I'm not sure about for the cloth is how well it's embedded, right? I'm almost kind of imagining that this is like a fisherman and he used to be on the sea all the time. So what he did was he repurposed the sail that he had on like a small fisher boat to make like a little banner for himself, right? So it wouldn't be like a neat banner like this, but it might actually be like a sail that's kind of draping down and then just, I don't know. It has like a little bit more of a rugged feel to it, right? But then still has like the brand on it. Could also be the case. But that's honestly, that's up to you. If you want to go for like a more clean banner or like a torn up one, could be an old sail, right? It could be very interesting if you want to really add like another depth or like another layer to it. Be interesting. Wanted to go and photo scan a fish to get an atlas, but I need to find a fishmonger close to me. Oh, that's actually a good idea. Yeah. If you can do that, for sure. Maybe you could even get frozen fish, right? Well, no, most of them are going to be prepped. Well, sometimes you have frozen fish that are still whole, right? Maybe that's an option to look into, and then scan that could also be an option. Yeah, cool though. Very cool. Love what you got going on, man. Yeah. Awesome. I think this will give you enough ideas, right? Like, I think in terms of the location of where it is, like this probably makes the most sense. At least to me. Like it kind of fits with the whole vibe, you know? So that would probably be like very interesting if you take this approach. Yeah, cool stuff, man. Cool stuff. I hope that helped. I I'll say it again, I'm such a big fan of having these like just very organic but very simple to do things, right? Like where you just have like a cable or like a line just like added between things. Oh, you can do so much stuff with that. Like honestly, I love it so much. And yeah, just have stuff hanging, right? You could have, yeah, even instead of this banner, you could just have like, no, like also like a fishing net hanging there. Also be cool, you know? Awesome. I'm looking forward to how this is gonna come together, Aaron. Like great stuff on this already. I love it. And thanks so much for sharing it as well. Appreciate it too. You already watched him, just helped me a ton. I'll post more whips as I go. Do it! I think you're quite close to the last quarter of this project. Yeah, so you're getting quite close to the end. Honestly, I think if you really level this up with like all these storytelling elements onto it, this could be even more of a winner than it already is. So, awesome job. Nice one. Cool. Let's move on to the next one, and let's make sure that I make a new scene, or like a new layer this time. Nice. So this is from Mr. G. Is working on a sword. Did updates on the pommel, the crossguard, and the blade. I need to update the textures on the blade and the handle. Made some adjustments to the metal sections. Nice. I think this is already like miles ahead of what it was before. Honestly, like it feels way cleaner. Like the values are like way more embedded in what they are real life. The colors are looking way better than before. I think the main thing that I want to say here is lighting, right? Lighting at this point is going to be more important than ever. And studio lighting, the stuff that you're using now, doesn't really do a good job of representing all the nice detail that you put in the metal, right? So it's not ideal, you know? So like this lighting scenario that you're using now is not really ideal to be using. Because you can see like there's probably like a bunch of nice detail in here, but like it's either like white or black in the reflection because that's, yeah, that's how the metal reflects stuff, right? Let's see. What I would definitely also look into, see if I can bring it up here as well, is getting some finer detail in there. Especially when it comes to the metal, like it has like tiny scratches on it, right? And certain areas feel duller than other areas, where in your case, like the majority of it, especially, well, you're getting some of it here, I think. Right? Where you have like shiny versus like a little dollar section. I think that's already going in the right direction. I think you just need to add like a couple of additional layers to it, and like very subtle ones. Like stuff that we're seeing here, right? Like there's like little cuts and like little bits of like just use and like wear and tear on it. I think that could definitely help you like push it to the next limit, up to the next level as well. But I won't say too much about that because I think you wanted to update the textures on the handle and the blade. So yeah, I'm just gonna keep it very simple. More subtle texture layers if you really want to focus on it, right? Yeah, I think the main thing now would just be to to use like a different lighting setup, because that's going to make like a huge difference. A recommendation that I always give is looking at, this is a weird one because I just said that you shouldn't use like studio lighting as your lighting setup, but look at studio lighting, you know, like how do they set it up, and like what kind of lights do they use? That could be very interesting. I see that you're already kind of using some of it, but you can definitely push it to like the next level with like a focused key light, then a fill light, and then to highlight the edges you have like a rim light, just making it nice. But I think honestly the most of it is gonna come from not using the studio HDRI to do the lighting for you. That's not really working in your favor, especially with like all the metals here. Because what you want to achieve with your lighting setup, right? If we dive a little bit deeper into that, is that you wanna show off like all the nice things that you put into it, and like the nice little details and the little roughness variations. That's what you want to show off, right? So you need to kind of pick a lighting scenario that works to those strengths as you're showing it off. Yeah, but I'll probably keep it to this. I like where this is going, like way better already than last time. It's yeah, just keep on pushing it. That's what I would say. Keep on pushing it. Yeah, we got the... This one isn't really doing it that much justice, but let me show you off this one as well, where I like the gradient that you have going on in the wood of the handle. Did a really great job with that. Looking nice. Nice one. Okay, Mr. G, thank you so much for posting your work. I hope this little bit of feedback helped, and let me know if it didn't. And moving on up. Let's see. This is from Shiva. Thank you so much for posting this for the first time ever. I think you're pretty new as well to the server, so thank you so much, and happy to have you as a new person in the community. Lovely to have you. Let's have a look here. This is my first environment I'm trying to complete. I started with only the shrine reference from a concept, and I'm trying to make an interesting environment around it. At the moment, I like it overall, but I think it looks a bit empty, and I would like to have some feedback on the composition and how I can improve the scene. Okay, cool. So let me distill that down into like 3 sections, right? Let's make sure that we add a new layer first. So, number 1 is interesting environment, right? So how can you create something interesting around your main focal point? Number 2 is looks a bit empty. So empty ? Question mark. Then number 3 is composition. Right, I just want to keep track of this myself as well. Hi, iMac. How are you doing? So, number 1. Interesting environment. So, yeah, it's interesting that you started from a concept, right? From just a shrine, and then you want to build something around it, which honestly is actually already working pretty well. I think you've done a good choice of incorporating like a bunch of stuff that kind of makes sense in the environment. So, yeah, good first steps here, honestly. I think, this kind of goes into like section number 2 as well. You don't necessarily have to fill everything up to the brim for something to look interesting. Because what you need to keep in mind is that we tend to gravitate towards things that are more detailed or have a higher contrast or have brighter colors compared to the rest of the scene, right? So what I'm basically saying is that if you fill up the whole scene, nothing's really gonna stand out anymore. And especially when it comes to these shrines, there's a reason why they built them in the forest, right? Because that's like a place of worship, and it should be the only place that's there. It's basically like it's a dedication to something special for them, right? So I don't think it's bad that you just kept it like very quote unquote simple, in terms of like, hey, it's just a forest with like a bridge going towards it and a path leading up to it, right? I don't think that's bad at all. Now, if you want to add some interest to it, if you want to add some dynamic elements to it, that's where the composition of it comes in, right? So what you can actually do, instead of having everything just as like a straight line, which can also work, right? But you can also have, let's say if we do like a top down. So top down, you're actually doing a good job of implementing verticality in your scene already. Like at first we have this bridge and then you go up this hill, right? So that's already working really, really nicely. Let me actually do a comparison, right? So right now what we have is, let's say this is the river. What we have is we have a path, we have a bridge, and then we have the staircase leading up, right? We have the staircase leading up, and then we have the shrine. Right, so that's the current layout of the whole scene. You can maybe already see the issue here, right? Or not technically an issue, but what might trick you into making it more simple than some of the stuff you see in real life, right? Like real life is not going to be straight all the time. Like the path is going to be very organic, and it's usually going to follow, especially on more rural shrines, right? Where you don't have the option to go in with like heavy machinery and like, I don't know, make like your own paths. It's usually going to conform to the landscape a little bit more. And it's also going to look like that. So what you can actually do, put this into perspective, is say, hey, there's this little path, you know, and then like the river is kind of, maybe the river is kind of bending this way, right? And then we have like a little bridge, and then it kind of leaves the scene again here. Right? You still do the same thing, right? You still have your little staircases, maybe a little normal section, and then you have like a staircase going down, and you play around with like all the elements that you've already have, but you just use them in like a different composition, right? So you could use like staircases, a little bit of like a straight section, and then like another staircase to bridge the last piece. And that's going to give you like nice little stepping, where it's not just like one staircase going up, but it's actually doing like little bits of steps. Kind of like what's happening here already, right? Where you have like a flat section, and then you have like the shrine steps, and then you have like the large staircase leading up to it. And then also this nice little breakup down here. You're kind of already breaking it up into like multiple steps, where you have staircase 1, staircase 2, staircase 3, and they kind of have their own little character, right? And it gives this depth to, like this historical depth, that this is not just like, oh, someone came in, put like one staircase and that was it. You know, like, no, this has been maintained and rebuilt and like kind of shaped over a longer period of time, right? But you could definitely, like, we can even go a little bit further, right? Like, not that this matters too much. Like, you have a staircase going up, right? And then you can put trees in places to like signal why this happened, right? Because now you can kind of see that, oh, someone built a path and they wanted to get up here to the temple, right? But then the reason why they didn't go this way is because there were like a whole bunch of trees in the way and they didn't want to cut down the trees, so they built in between the trees, right? So that's where the shape follows the natural terrain, right? It kind of lends its shape from nature, which also gives a more interesting composition. Obviously, in this, you have to be careful that you don't obscure the camera too much, especially with these trees, right? Let's say your camera is here. These trees are going to get in the way. So that's where you have to be clever. Instead of trees, maybe it's a rock formation instead and it curves around it, you know? Yeah, it's like an iterative thing, right? Kowalinsky, hi, I'm new here. Hi, nice to have you here. May I ask, how can I get my WIP reviewed by the author? So this is something that I do for all my community members. So if you want to get your work reviewed, the best way is to become a community member by signing up to our Patreon, which can be found like in the links below. But yeah, so this can be like a composition thing, right? So top-down composition from static to dynamic, right? However, there are shrines like this, right? Like the shrine that you've built is not illogical. Like I've seen a lot of shrines like that, so you don't necessarily have to do it to the whole scene. You could also just move around the stuff that's easily movable, right? So let's say the staircase is gonna stay, but I'm just gonna move the, let's do like a really quick like third little mock-up here, right? So let's say the shrine is gonna stay, the staircase is gonna stay, but then the river is gonna be more dynamic. What should we do? Yeah, so the river is gonna be more dynamic. The bridge is now gonna go this way, and then there's a path going up here, right? So how much you want to change, or how much you want to change, that's all up to you. And that can really help the composition as well. If you decide not to change, then let's have a look at the composition and what you can do here, right? I think you already have like the basics down of dividing your frame up into like 3 sections, right? Which is basically like the rule of thirds, where you just like divide it up into like 3 equal parts horizontally and vertically, and then you ideally try to place your items on these cross sections, right? So that's what's happening with this temple roughly. However, what you could do with this composition to improve it is actually pull the camera a little bit backwards and give this section a little bit more space. Because right now it almost feels like you're choking off the bridge, right? It doesn't have like any space to breathe anymore. So it's too close to the edge of the frame. Right? That's like a really quick win. Like ideally you want to see a little bit of the path, because the path is going to act as like a natural line that you can follow through the entire scene and eventually bring you up to this space up here, right? Like the focal point. Yeah, so let's see. Let's make sure that we kind of went over like all the things, right? Because I spent a whole lot of a ton of time talking about the composition. Um and I think to reiterate, like I think you have an interesting environment, right? Like all the main components are there. I think what I would look at, I don't know if you have a good example in your ref actually, Shiva. Mm, I guess so. I guess. Let's see. So if I copy this image, can I bring that in here? Nope, I can't crop that. So I'm mostly interested in this little image over here. So if we rasterize that. So there's actually an interesting thing that's already happening in this little picture over here, which is that we have like contrast by nature, right? So nature is actually doing a really good job of giving us like a whole bunch of contrasting values, and it's naturally going to make like the whole shrine stand out from the rest of nature. Because you have like the red, or like, I'll write it here. Red versus green, right? So like the green is all the foliage, and then the red is the shrine, which draws in like a lot of attention to the shrine. And if we then zoom out and look at the way that you've done it, is like the temple in your scene kind of blends in a little bit more, right? Because of the color choices. So there's a couple of ways that we can remedy this, right? One of it could be like just simply changing up the color. That could be one. We could also emphasize. So let me write a list of that down, right? So this is red versus green contrast, and then so focal point improvements. Let's call it that. So focal point improvements. The first one could be change color, right, on the focal point. I don't necessarily feel like that you should do that in this case, but I'm writing it down as a suggestion anyway. What you can also do is play around with the lighting. Right? So you deliberately add more light onto this section, or maybe even this like entire region, right? To pull more of an emphasis to here, to like your main focal point. And that might actually look like, let's actually do like a quick paint over here, right? So if we just hide all of this stuff for a second. Okay, whatever. Then let's see. Let's see. This is burning it, right? So midtones. Just trying to see. This tool is so flimsy sometimes. So why you no work? Capacity, hardness. Not doing anything though. Oh. Yep, okay. Yep, being stupid. Oh, hate it. Oh, now it's doing stuff. Yeah, of course, because I was painting on the wrong picture. Okay, so anyway, I was saying... Times makes you feel dumb, huh? Okay, so what I was saying is that you can deliberately start playing with the lighting. Right? And like really push some of those values back. And like create this sort of area to make the focal region like stand out a little bit more, right? Obviously this is gonna have like a very dramatic effect. I just wanna make like a quick point here, right? Now what you can do is do something like this, right? And this is already if we apply like the squinting trick, right? If squinting is basically just like blurring it, right? So let's do that really quick. So if we just say like, hey, look at this and just look at the values and where it's guiding you, right? Like this is already doing a way better job than the previous thing was doing as well. Right? And that's what you have to do constantly. Like you have to look at the available tools to your disposal without sacrificing your artistic intent. Right? Because I made the assumption that you colored this specific shrine in a specific color because that was gained from like your artistic intent, right? You wanted it to be like this dark brown and this like longer wood with like these nice golden accents. So we can't change the color. Then we'll need to achieve what we want to do like in a different way by, in this case, probably just changing up like the light, right? Making it a bit more focused. And then there's other tricks too. Like you could also have a little bit more fog behind it so that it separates itself from the background as well, which is also like a really cool technique. Let's actually see if we can quickly try to do that, right? Yeah, and selection. Just go. Let's do it really quick. Right. So let's mask that out. And then if you want to make it stand out from the background, we'll just add like a little bit of fog behind it, right? Which I'm literally just gonna do with like, oh, sorry. It was like I'm literally gonna do that with a little bit of opacity. No. Make it white. Set the hardness to all the way down. Right, because that mountain is going to be like far along in the distance. Right, and that can also help you to add this additional layering. Like, if we disable that and maybe we'll make it like a little bit softer, right? It doesn't have to be that apparent. But yeah, you can see how stuff starts to stand out, right? Like we're using artistic tools to basically separate like certain elements that we want to stand out more. And this is like a good way, in conjunction to all the other stuff that we were using before, to make it stand out. Yeah, honestly, I think the rest of the scene is actually like in a very good state. You know, like it looks very cute. It has like a nice vibe to it. I love what you did with the foliage as well. So I don't necessarily think that you need to add more. It has this very like peaceful and serene kind of feel to it. It's just about, yeah, bringing out the stuff that's already there in like a different manner. Yeah, cool. Thank you so much for posting your work, Shiva. I hope this helps. And I'll post this in... Oh, Shiva is actually here. Hi, Shiva. Welcome to the chat. Was there anything that I didn't explain well, or that you want some additional explanations on? While you're here, right? Might as well make use of it. I just logged in time to see the review. Nice. Oh, so you didn't see the complete thing. That's okay. I love your little scene here, by the way. I love what you did with the foliage. Looks really nice. So, yeah, that's all right. Like, I'll post this on the Discord chat, and this is gonna be a recording anyway, so you can watch this back to get like the full thing. And let me know in the community chat what you think about it. All right, next up, we got Antonio. Antonio is working on this little scene over here. He's yeah, trying to decide which airplane he wants to build. So let's see. Everything which is hard surface is mine. The trees and the rocks are from a pack. Looking for feedback which plane I should choose and what I could improve. This is not finished. There are still props and textures that need to be done. Nice one. Okay. I don't know if you've already did this, but I think you've already made a choice on the plane that you're gonna be picking, right? So I think actually the red one over here is a cool choice. And I think that's also the one you picked. So let's stick to that. When it comes to actual feedback, right? So I'm just gonna add this plane. Oop. I like this one because it's a little bit more unique, right? Like these kind of planes, like the white ones that I'm seeing here, like we've kind of seen them a lot, you know. So maybe make something more unique. What I'll say is you gotta think about what kind of an environment this is, right? And how it makes sense that there's like a hangar with an airplane in here. Like, what is the story that you're trying to tell, right? Because that's going to be very important, because my gut feeling with this is, okay, there's like a hangar here, but hangars are usually next to an airport, right? Because you just want to safely store your airplane and then get it out and start, like, basically get it on the runway and fly off. But if we're going from that assumption, then I would expect to see less trees around, right? Because if you look at an airfield, like any airfield you go to, like there's gonna be no trees, especially around like the hangars and like where basically they take off and land themselves, right? So, it's important to question the environment is. Or what story you're trying to tell, right? if it's just like, hey, I wanna show off this nice plane in this hangar environment, then you don't need to go as deep, right? Like as deep in the storytelling. But yeah, I think it could be cool where you add like a little spin to it, right? Where you say, hey, this is a hangar with like an abandoned airplane in it. And then you can kind of add like a whole bunch of like story layers on top of it, which could be cool. But I don't know. I don't know what you're trying to do with that here, right? So try to decide first what the story is. Let me actually change that up here, right? Like what the story is. Like, what are you trying to say with this environment? Because, yeah, I'll make a note as well, for the trees. Right? Because if this is like an active airport or like an airfield, then I wouldn't expect to see trees here. Right? Yeah, so I think that's honestly like the biggest thing. I think the rest of it looks good. You know, you gotta be careful. You gotta be careful with the placement of stuff. Because you have like a couple of barrels here, but the barrels are just like random, right? So like there's a lot of random prop placement. So random prop placement, like the barrels here. This stop sign as well. I think that's a stop sign that's used for roads, right? But then why is it used for this gate, right? I think on a gate it's probably highly likely that you'll see what is it, like a no trespassing sign or something like that, right? And then just like I don't know, fine, you get fined if you do, right? Like there's like a whole bunch of other text on it, but this is more like a pedestrian thing, and this is more like a car sign thing, right? That's what it feels to me like. This is a stop sign that you would see if you're running into like a junction or something like that. That's what it feels like to me. That's what I was thinking. A Bullborb is saying in the chat, I changed the meaning of the sign, like some area 51, no trespassing. Oh my god. Make it like an alien thing all of a sudden. But yeah, like it's important, right? Like, because a sign like that can actually give you like a lot of storytelling when it comes to this place. Right? If you say like, hey, no trespassing, but the sign is like really old and maybe the fence is really old, then you could also make the assumption that the plane itself and what's stored in the hangar is really old, right? But if it's all new, like it all matches together, right? So because I'll give you like another example. Like a lot of the hangar, like the roof of it, is coming off, right? Which means that this place is really old, because all the plating has basically fallen off. Which also means that this fence looks a little bit too new in terms of like the shapes for it to correlate to the plates that are literally falling off the hangar, right? Like half of the hangar is just open. So I would if the hangar is old, like some other stuff that I would expect is that the plane is old as well, right? Or like at least worn. Because the plane itself has been in the rain and has been basically revealed to the weather elements, right? So like it's out there, it's been raining on it, like maybe a metal plate hit it on the way down. So the plane is going to be worn and damaged as well. The fence is going to be the same too. Fence is old. And then yeah, like metal stuff, like the metal barrels, that's gonna be rusted. Well, as I say this, it looks like the environment that it's set in is Australia, right? So because there's no moisture, or well, there might still be moisture, right? But it's not going to have such a dramatic impact as we normally would have in Europe over here. So instead of rusted, let's make it just like covered in dust, because this looks like a sandy area, right? And then you can do the same thing to the plane and to the fence as well. And that's gonna, what I'm basically trying to do is massage everything together again, right? Because everything has like a cause and effect on each other as well. So with that I mean, if a plate from the hangar falls down, that is either still going to be on the ground, or it might have hit the plane on the way down and caused damage onto the plane itself, right? So you're going to see that. And yeah, like leaving these metal barrels outside, that also means that they're going to be exposed to the weather elements, which is going to mean that they're going to be covered in dust, right? And it might even be beat up or even be fallen down, you know, like if it's been very windy. So that's what I mean with like massaging everything together. Right? So that's what I would start. Like, think about what kind of story you want to tell. Right? Like, this is, let's say this is an abandoned hangar in like somewhere rural Australia in the middle of the mountains. Someone stored their airplane there, right? And then kind of forgot about it or passed away. That could be a very interesting story to tell, right? And this is like an old, like a very old looking plane as well, so it kind of ties in with the story too. But then what you would have to do is you kind of have to make it look like it's old, right? So the fences would be broken down and blah blah blah. Basically what we discussed just now. Yeah. I hope that helps. That was like a whole bunch of improvements. I've also seen that you added like a weather balloon. Oh well, it's a hot air balloon, right? Yeah. Focus on the important stuff first, I would say with that. I think you're trying to add it to a cinematic, right? Which could be cool with the airplane flying to the whole thing. Could be cool. But yeah. Got to make sure that the core of the environment is done first, right? So I hope this helps, Antonio. Hope it helps. And over here we've got Emmanuel. How is it going? So Emmanuel is working on this arcane library based off a concept art. And they just want some feedback on things that look off. Currently thinking about reworking the compass gyro thing. Yeah, it is looking really nice, right? I like the sort of texturing style that you're going for, like very painterly. I like it. I think you did a very, very good job on it so far. I see what you're saying, Emmanuel. With the gyro thing in the back, right? Looking at the ref. Let me bring up the ref as well. Spazzing out for a little bit. I think the main shapes are there, right? Like the only thing that I can really point out is just like some of the proportions. Like the inner disc feels like way bigger than the one that you have. While yours feels way bigger than the one that's in the concept. And then also having the little attachment piece, it also looks a little bit different. But I think honestly, what is currently happening, which is probably like the biggest quote unquote issue here, is that it doesn't stand out too much from like the background. Right? I don't know if you agree with that or not, but like I kind of have the feeling, especially with this, with these like railing pieces, right? They blend together. Right, because they have the same color, they kind of have the same sort of treatment, and especially from a distance, like it's hard to distinguish, like especially in this area, like what's happening here. It just feels very noisy. So I think what you could do is change the color on the railing. On the railing, right? Or you could start playing around with like some very slight fog, because that's honestly what's also happening here, even though it's more bloom, right? But they kind of have this bloom effect, which kind of helps like massage the two together. That would also be like an interesting thing to just in general look into. It's just like the bloom effect that they have going on. Be very interesting for your scene as well. God rays! Yeah, you gotta be careful with God rays though, because I mean, I like dramatic lighting, right? I'm all for dramatic lighting. But yeah, with something like this, you gotta be careful that it doesn't take too much away, right? Like you gotta be very subtle with it. Could be definitely a good idea though. Blend to get. Blend together. So I see what you're saying. I don't know if that's why you want to rework it, but that certainly feels like a thing to me. And then also, yeah, proportions, right? Like proportions just slightly different. Especially from the main disc itself. Like those proportions, like the balance between the shapes. Like yours feels like way heavier than the one that they have there. Could maybe be interesting to play around with the emissive value on the crystal, right? Because if I'm thinking about Arcane to Show, like all the... Was that the Hex deck? Like basically the blue orbs that they have, like it was all like very emissive, right? So it could be an interesting thing to play around with. Emissive test could be very interesting. Yes. Oh, there's also one thing I wanted to point out in your little scene here. It's cool that you added this foreground element, right? I love it, like it's a very unique one, but it feels too dominant now. And that's mostly... I'm looking at some of the thumbnails as well because it gives like a clearer overview, right? Oh, I think I'm working with an older one still. Because you updated during the stream. It's a little better in your latest edition, right? I was gonna say it's mainly because of the highlight, but you've actually dumbed down the highlight as well, which is actually quite nice. Let me... The highlight steals a lot of attention. Right? So you gotta be careful for that. Yeah, but the rest of the scene is looking super nice. Manuel, great job. I like the painterly style. Like the painterly feel that you have going on. Very nice. Obviously, this is a great idea for the scene in Lumen, honestly, because there's so many vibrant colors. Like you get so much like really nice looking global illumination with Lumen. This is awesome. Great choice. Yeah, cool. I would definitely say I'm gonna write it down as well. Bloom, right? Bloom on the windows is gonna look really nice. But I'll probably leave it at that, you know. The rest of it is coming along really nicely, gotta say. Like we've done with the carpet and like all the variation in it as well. Nice one, Emmanuel. Awesome. Next up, we got Coffee Diction over here. There was a latest update done. Have a look. Oh, adding some. Hey Jay, thanks for the feedback. Yeah, no worries. If there's anything else that I can help with, let me know. You know, and thanks so much for putting up your work as well. I appreciate that. Nice. We got some stuff over here. Let me see. So we got a couple of latest updates as well. I'll bring them up from Coffee Diction. Got the outside sign. Got some of the branding on the window. I love that idea. Like that's a great idea. Because you were kind of struggling on making it look lively, right? And I think that's a great idea to actually add some life to the whole thing. What you could do, again, it's a smaller detail, right? Is add some discoloration and some variation between the letters, right? That not everything is perfect. Maybe one of the letters is missing. Maybe they had to adjust the pricing, so they had to like scratch off one of the numbers and then they added like another number on top of it, but it's not exactly the same font or color, right? Because this has been in the sun for such a long time. So that could be something interesting to look in. Also watch out with the proportions of the, I think, well, it might be a block out, but I'm gonna say it anyway. Watch out with the proportions of the, what is it called? Like the blinds, right? Because they feel really thick and chunky. And usually those are like very flimsy bits of metal, right? So, but yeah, I love this idea. Like the lunch special, where you just have like a bunch of stuff on it. You could even... I'm trying to think. Because you could even go with something like really dramatic, right? Like something that really calls attention to itself, almost as a cry of desperation, like the final cries of like a restaurant, like trying to stay open, like trying to get attention, like a 2-for-1 or whatever, you know? A lunch special, now only like $5, you know, instead of like $12 kind of thing. Really trying to call for attention. Yeah. I love what you've done with the vending machine. It's looking real nice. Like the fake brands that you got on top of it as well. I mean, if they are fake. Don't even know. I've never seen any of these, so might as well be. I'm actually saying the color of the orange text under lunch special, red would pop better, or even white. Yep, that's a good point. Where are we? Yeah, that's a good point, especially on the orange, right? Like, let's make it white. Doesn't it stick out too much? You want it to stick out, right? Because this is basically the staff of this diner yelling out and saying like, oh, please come in here and eat. We need your cash, right? So it has to stick out. It has to be like super tacky. And it kind of has to be like pretty forced, right? Oh, you meant the machine. Let's have a look. No? No, I like it. Doesn't stick out to me at all. The only thing that's bothering me is like I think you might still be working on this, but like the misalignment of I think these are like the previous things that you bake down. That's still happening here, so you got like the AO and like the textures still from like the previous baked version. I think it's Cast Shadow? I don't think so. I think that might be Cast Shadow from what? No way. That's baked texture because you can even see like the same transition see in here as well. No way. That's probably still AO, right? Anyway, that's the only thing. The rest of it looks nice. I like the little logo that you did for it as well. Like the little logos. Look into what is that? Sun discoloration? Right? Or I think sometimes they call it like sun bleaching as well. Especially on an older machine, like some of the colors are going to be like really faded, especially if it's like in the sun a lot of the time. Right? So that could be something to also push for, and what kind of looks like it, because this, especially the ads, right? They look like really fresh. So you kind of want to make them like really like faded out to really sell the idea that this thing has been here for like a long time, you know? And then also, like you said, right? Like have some scratches of like people scratching their coins on the machine as well. On logos. I'm not sure how to do discoloration without removing color. It's just gray when I do that. Well, you have to remove color, right? I think that's the whole thing that that sun bleaching does. Like it just removes color. I mean, it's a minor point, right? You don't necessarily have to do it. It's just some of it looks a bit too pristine, in my opinion. This is only a 15% saturation, by the way. Interesting. Yeah, cool. So let's have a look at the context here, right? So the machine sticks out a lot now. I don't think it does. I mean, we already kind of discussed that, right? I'm not sure about the interior. Nothing is visible from the outside, so might as well stick with the curtains. I hope it implies enough that it has a working interior. I think the curtains together with the blinds actually does a good job, right? I think the blinds are a really good idea. I'm trying to think about like a simple trick. Because I gotta be honest, I'm not a fan of the dark interior, right? Especially with the door open and then the whole place being dark. Don't like that. So I wonder, there's a couple of things that you can look into, right? My first thing would be like an interior cube map. Which is basically gonna be like a texture that parallaxes and kind of moves with the camera and kind of gives the idea that there's like an interior, but it's not. You see that in a lot of games, like let's say Spider-Man, where all the interiors from every building is done in this technique, right? That might be an interesting one. No, it's not bump offset. It's a specific thing. Like it is called like interior cube map. So let me quickly look up. There's like a tutorial on ArtStation. Let me just have a quick look. Yeah, so this is basically what it's doing, right? I'll add like a little link here that you can check out. But that's kind of what you could do. Right? This is very elaborate, right? So this is like way more than you would need. You can probably do something very simple in terms of this setup. But yeah, definitely worth looking into. Because then you don't need to build an interior, but you still get the feeling that there's an interior, right? And especially if you can't get close, so you can't move the camera all that much, like this is gonna do like a great job. The only place where you have to watch out is where you're, I don't know if you have like camera shots, where you can look into one window and out of the other one, right? Because that's going to completely break the effect. So watch out for those angles. Yeah, that's the thing. Like this is mainly what's missing, right? If you want to sell the idea of it actually still being open, this is the thing that you need to look into. Cool. Something that we didn't discuss last time, I'm just going to make a quick note of it, is green pipes. Right? Especially because I'm looking at this corner and there's like a lot of dirt, like a lot of leakage and all that stuff, but there's no place for the leakage to come from, right? So I just want to make a quick note of that. But yeah, the interiors are actually gonna be the biggest hassle, I think, to get them to look right. Makes sense. Noted. Yeah, cool. There's some stuff that we discussed last time, but I'm not gonna reiterate too much of it. I do want to point out like a quick thing that you can do here. You have a tileable on it, right? It's very noticeable. Cut out one section of the tileable and actually give it like a little bit of geo, pull it out a little bit so that it looks like the plank is actually coming out of the building. Right? Rather than just being a part of the tileable. Like, it's a good way to break up like a tileable effect like this, if you can. Because, yeah, it's not really working for this building, right? You might even do that on like a couple ones because it has like this very, very self-built kind of shed kind of attitude to it, right? It doesn't even have to be a lip. You could also just have like complete planks just being like slightly inset compared to each other, right? You have like your normal tileable, but then there's like little inset that happens here. Right, and that's like a good way to add variation to a tileable. Anything around the building? Groundwork? What's happening here? Just gonna say POM, you know, parallax. Parallax can help a lot on these little sections where you have like a decal that's projected on the floor to give it some actual depth instead of only relying on the normal. Could be a very interesting one here. So yeah, definitely add some parallax to that to make it look real nice. If you wanna vary up, like some of these parking spaces, right? Just add like little decals on it. They can be like really faded out, but I think if they're gonna be there, that gives you like the effect that there was something there at a certain point. Also, yeah, think about like interesting ways of like making things varied, right? Like let's say, oh, there's 3 poles here, but someone bumped into the left one, you know? So this pole is crooked. Maybe this is... This pole has a little plaque on it for personnel only. Basically try to see if you can find like little, I don't know, little bits of inspiration, right? Like little small character adds that you can do to your environment, right? And the way that I can come up with these is just I try to, well, look for ref, right, for sure. And then also try to imagine if I was working there, you know, like what would my day look like? So I drive up the highway. I park my car. Like maybe there's like a reserved spot for me. Maybe I put it at the back. Maybe I put it on the side. You know, it could be cool. Maybe there's one of these like really old chairs over here, right? And then a person, there's like a cardboard box and there's like an ashtray on it to indicate that this is like just the owner of the restaurant like chilling here during smoke breaks or something like that and watching the people roll in and enjoying the sun kind of thing. Could be an interesting one. Right, just, I mean, I'm just doing like a bunch of random things. Maybe there's a poster. You know, maybe there's like a couple of posters of just like very old stuff, like 1970s stuff. Maybe there's a poster over here, like help wanted. You know, maybe there's like an ad for people that are looking for a job, or maybe they're looking for additional people to get hired. To help them out with the little diner. If you're gonna keep this AC here, it would be cool to maybe have some cabling going on to somewhere, right? Or maybe have it gone to the side. I don't know. I don't see on the screenshots that I have here. Yeah, just little personality ads, right? Like let's the same thing that I kind of mentioned with the diner stuff as well. It's just have it like slightly crooked, you know, and maybe the R is blinking. Andrea is coming in with a good suggestion. Let's have a look. Just got in, but wanted to suggest a little board that has the specials of the day. Don't know if it has been mentioned yet. That is a great idea, Andrea. Coffee Diction actually did an update to it already, but I don't have the latest updates here. Let me show it off. The Coffee Diction added it to the window. So you're right on the money. Right on the money, Andrea. Thank you so much for the suggestion. Let's see. What are you saying, Coffee Diction? A private place for some storytelling or similar? Yeah. Looks great so far. I remember seeing it the other day. That's awesome, Andrea. Thank you for the support. I think it does too. Definitely making some great progress. I mean, just the vending machine alone, you know, like looks way more lively, has way more character to it than what we had to look at like last week, you know. But yeah, like I think honestly that's it. You know, I don't want to go too far into it because it's up to you, right? Like there's a lot of opportunities to add like little bits of nice storytelling. You basically, yeah, I mean, it sounds so stupid, you know, but that's basically how I come up with ideas. Like I try to imagine what my life would be like, what I would use, like look into like quirky little rabbit holes, you know, like I'm building a medieval scene, right? And there's like lots of little rabbit holes where I'm like, oh, what are the tools used for a blacksmith? And then I go down a rabbit hole where people are like making or finding like really weird tools and then try to incorporate that into my scene, you know, and then trying to figure out what they're used for. Of course, it's like a different example, but that rabbit hole research kind of helps me understand the day-to-day life of what they did, right? And you could, oh my god, there must be a treasure trove of like not popular videos, but just like what is it like working in like a rural diner, you know, or like a rural gas station, or like a day in the life of a rural gas station clerk or something like that, right? There's probably so much stuff that you can add, you know. Oh, Andrea, that's a good idea too. Yeah. Play music that fits the scene, kind of creating the environment that helps build the atmosphere around it. That's a great tip. iMac is also sharing like a bunch of good stuff, by the way. Abandoned vehicles is iMac's suggestion. Yeah, the thing there is, man, if you want to make that look good, that's like a whole project on itself, right? I think what you could do though, is look on Sketchfab. Maybe they have something, right? Like an old car, like a scan or something like that, or maybe like a cleaned up model. They can get for free. Yeah, that could be interesting. Could definitely be interesting. And then you don't have to worry about it, right? And the abandoned cars is basically going to be filler for the background anyway, right? I don't see an abandoned car like sitting on the parking lot. Yep, credit the author for sure. Help your fellow artists. Yeah. The old phone booth is actually something that Coffee Diction has already added, so again, I cherry picked like a couple of images, right? But already in there. But that's a great suggestion again, though. Yeah, cool stuff, Coffee Diction. And thank you so much for all the good suggestions, everyone. That's awesome. Yeah. Great stuff, though. Like, especially the improvements to the vending machine. Like, I love them. You know? Great stuff. Great job on it. Nice one! And then the last one for today is going to be Tate Bitters. Working on this really cool, what is it? Like ice skate sharpener, apparently. I think I'm at the finishing point for this prop. I've been staring at it for far too long and I'm not sure what else I can do or add. Fortunately, don't have anything specific things to need feedback on. Just give a shout. Anything. It's looking nice. Looking very nice. Yeah, interesting. Okay. So, what I'll say about this? Well, first of all, it looks freaking kick-ass. Let me start there. So that's for one, right? I don't want to make sure that we get that out of the way because this looks amazing. The attention to detail is really nice. All the little bits on it. I think the first thing that I will say is, no, I keep saying it almost every time when we do these things, right? Finding opportunities to add character. Spelling is gone out of control again. Finding opportunities to add character. Right. Hey Costas! How's it going, buddy? So, finding opportunities to add character. So what do I mean by this? Like, I look at this prop and it looks freaking amazing, right? But it also looks very static, right? It has this feel that it's too clean, that it's almost like this has been in use for like a long time, according to the texturing, but then someone meticulously aligned everything to be at the same kind of angle, right? What I mean by that is this is a hinge here, this is a hinge here, but the whole thing is like perfectly aligned. This thing is perfectly aligned as well, right? This little thing, like that's on a rotating anchor point here, that's also like perfectly aligned, right? Like these little things up here, if you look at the close-up, they are also like perfectly aligned. And the thing there is you're hinting at a lot of use with the texturing, but then you have to do the same thing with the geometry as well, right? You have to put in the details in the geometry as well. So what I mean by that is you have a great reference actually, right? And I don't mean that you have to swing it all the way out here, but if we just look at this little kink over here, and if you then apply that to just this little arm, right? Let's say this little arm, it's not going this side, but it's actually a little bit misaligned, and then you have like the anchor point here, and then it kind of goes back to that position, right? And then maybe this whole thing is a little bit rotated to this side. Right? So we have like a little bit more of like an organic shape already going on. Just by doing like just a little bit of like geometry adjustments, right? Like nothing else needs to be adjusted. It's just moving out like some of the geometric pieces. Right? So this is basically coming down to, if we divide it into boxes, it would basically come down to something like this. Right? So it gives the whole thing like a more organic feel. And then these things, they're also not going to be like 90-degree aligned. Right? But let's just ever so slightly like misalign them. Right? This is great feedback. It's not only the quality of work we do, but the quality of the presentation we put into. Yeah, 100%, right? Because that's oftentimes what we struggle with, right? It's like we spend like months and months working on this amazing environment or this amazing prop in this case. And then you're like, oh, this looks good. Okay, let's get it on the portfolio, right? And it's sometimes those little bits of extra time that can make all the impact, you know? You can really separate yourself from all the rest of it as well. All the rest of the people. So basically anything where you have like an interaction in this case, you can add like a little bit of crookedness. Right? Like even, I know we're not seeing a lot of it, right? But like even these bolts, right? You can just see that they're the same alignment. Like just rotate them just a tiny bit. Like you're doing here. This is awesome. Love that. Bonk. Same here. That's awesome. Are you doing it here as well? Yeah, just slightly rotate this one. Right? Never have them like just straight aligned. Nice one though. Doing a good job here. Yeah, and that's the main thing that I wanted to get out of the way, right? Is that for the presentation, just finish up some of those things. Maybe... Man, I love the different colors here though. The reason why I like it is because they're asymmetrical. Oh, that's with a double M, isn't it? Ah. So asymmetry is actually great for, again, adding character to it, right? It makes it more believable because you're never... What this basically comes down to is that this plate has been replaced at a different date than this one, right? And then the owner of this piece of equipment was like, oh god, like at this point, this brand was cheaper than this one, right? So I'm gonna get these ones. Cool. Or maybe they're even like different hardnesses, right? Like different what is that, like the coarseness level? Like the sharpening. So one is like the broad, like it's more coarse, and then this is more like finer material, right? Great. Thanks everyone. It's nice to have people just shouting it out in the chat. Thank you so much. Could also be it, right? Different colors, different types of grit. Could also be it. And that's why, yeah, just incorporating those, it's gonna look nice. Oh, I see the issue. I see the issue with that though. Yes, sir. Mirror image. So, technically there's nothing wrong with this, right? Technically there is not. Like, I see that you're trying to optimize this already probably like dense mesh, because the amount of details that you can see on this prop like is nuts, right? And I think if you're taking this approach already, where you're kind of making a prop that's going above what you would stereotypically see in games, you're setting yourself up to be scrutinized by stuff like this, right? So so break the symmetry, right? Right? Because I think, yeah, you don't want to set yourself up to be scrutinized when you're already so much above what stereotypical games quality is anyway. So I think it could be important to just break it up, and then also give yourself more freedom when it comes to it, right? Yeah, that's a good way of explaining it too, Bulborb, is the type of symmetry seems out of context with the level of detail of the asset. For sure, yeah. And especially because it is so in your face as well, right? Like, usually what we do is we try to break it up, and a good rule about this is that if you can see it in one camera view, you usually want to separate them. But if you can't, then you can use symmetry, right? So let's say you have a car top down, right? So this is our little car. This is the front of the hood. And you want to symmetry this, right? You can't symmetry it like all the way down. Or you shouldn't, because then you're going to end up with like a butterfly image, right? Like let's say you add like a little bits of dirt here, they're going to be mirrored here. So what you do instead is you can still symmetry the whole thing, because no one's ever going to see this side and this side together, right? So you can symmetry the whole thing apart from the bonnet and the back of it, right? So these sections are going to be unique. So you can literally cut out, like in a lot of the cars, you can just cut out like the, was it like the back door and the bonnet, or like the front of the car, and just make that unique. And then the rest of it can still be symmetried, right? Because you're never going to see it in like one camera. So that's the same thing that you can do here too. Or the same approach that you need to take, in my opinion. Costas is also saying, oh, the chat is probably horrible to read on this white background. let me move it over to something more readable. I would love to see the UVs on this mesh. Oh yeah, me too. Love to see it too. A great way to do that is if you render your mesh in Unreal, put some extra decals or dirt or roughness and create a different material instance for the different meshes. Or create a different material instance for the different meshes. Yeah, but the thing is, like, if you're doing a prop, I agree, right? Like, that's the usual game workflow, and that's how I would do it too. But with a prop that's already so above, like, the standard that you can expect from games these days, right? If you're putting in like such a high texel density and then adding additional decals on top of it, yeah, that's just a waste of resources, I think. Like, then just put it in the material, right? You're already going above on the texture anyway. So might as well do that. But if this was like a normal prop, right? Absolutely agree. 100%. The material instance could actually be an interesting one. But then you would need to control the level of dirt or damage in the shader as well. And this is literally just a one-to-one thing, right? Yeah, great shout though. You need more than a basic shader in Unreal Engine, of course. Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, so yeah, that was on the presentation side of things, right? There's also one other thing that I wanted to point out is the color seems more saturated. In your ref, right? It's more, it can also be like a personal thing, but I feel like right now you probably benefit from, well, let's actually see what it looks like. So if we duplicate this and then do, where is it? HSL. Oh, let's completely blow it out. I know we're going a little bit overboard, right? But actually don't mind it. And like if I'm just gonna put this one let's say next to it. Okay, maybe it's a little bit too strong, but let's see, 30%. 30% is already like a lot, right? Yeah, look at how much that adds, like how more vibrant it is and how more lifelike it is. Because it really brings up like the whole color variation that you added to your prop as well. That's what I would definitely go for though. Just really pushing those values a little bit. Again, could be personal taste, right? Like probably the quality of the photo as well, especially with HSL values, so you can drive yourself crazy. Yeah. Exactly. But this kind of feels more towards like what you're looking at in the ref as well. Right? But yeah, that's what Costas is saying, right? Like this picture, you don't know what camera, you don't know what settings, like it might have blown out like the color scheme, and yeah, I feel like you can use like a little bit of vibrancy though. Make it vibrant. Love that. Let's have a look. Like, you do better see it. More vibrant. I've had this at work today, picked up different reference color from color picker in Painter, and the whole texture was way different. I had to desaturate a lot. Oh, yeah. Oh, picking up a direct reference color from the color picker in Painter. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, man, like... Yeah, it also depends on like the art style and the look that you're going for, right? It is such... It's not simply like plug and play, right? And then also the kind of scene that you're surrounded by, especially when you have like a lot of global illumination going on and Lumen is bouncing like light all over the place, and it's just like, yeah, just get really crazy really quick. But yeah, I hope that helped, Tate. I hope that helped. I think just polishing of the presentation, right? Like really driving it to like the next level. And then also, yeah, in my opinion, just making the color like a little bit more saturated, right? Like really bringing it to life. That could definitely be done as well. Great stuff though. Like the texturing on it looks really great. Awesome job. Nice one. Just gonna keep it to this. And then the post-processing of values, and lights is just crazy. Oh yeah, dude. Like, man, there's been... I need to think. Post-processing can have such a drastic impact, right? Because there have been projects that I worked on where I drove the post-processing up so much that basically I had to stay under like a certain limit in the color. Basically what you're saying as well, right? That you just pick a color, you had to desaturate like 50% or something like that, and then the post-processing would boost it back up to like its normal values again. Sometimes it gets nuts. Okay. Awesome. Yeah, I don't know if I mentioned it already, Tate, but thank you so much for sharing your work with us as well. This is perfect timing. We're in 2 hours, so thanks everyone. Thanks Aaron. Thanks Mr. G. Thanks Shiva and Antonio, Emmanuel, Coffee Diction, and Tate for sharing your work. I'm just gonna leave up with this last notification. If you want to share your work in the work in progress thread on the Discord, then there's a new tag that I added where you can request specific work in progress Wednesday feedback from me, but also still leave your work open to be feedbacked, basically. So we have open for feedback, which is where you say like, hey, feel free to feedback me at any time, and a specific WIP Wednesday review feedback as well, which is specifically for me. So feel free to use those tags in the future. Thanks everyone for being here. I'm gonna be popping out. I'm gonna do some more work. And yeah, like Costas is saying, awesome work, people. And yeah, see you in the next one. Have a nice evening. Bye-bye.